I have been studying giant clams for the last 15 years or so, and this is my very first time in Palau. It's the birthplace of how giant clams have been bred, so definitely very exciting. Around the world, there are 12 different giant clam species, 8 of them that can be found in Palau itself. And the largest species that we know of is called the Tridacna gigas, commonly known as the true giant clam because it can grow up to 1.3 meters long and weigh over 300 kgs. Because of its sheer size, when you actually see it on the seabed, it looks like a giant mouth. It was previously sort of thought to be a man-eater.
I haven't seen gigas in the wild before. It's quite wild, actually. I mean, they're so huge and there's so many of them all over the place. Great start, actually. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the rest of the trip.
What species is this one?
Maxima,
How old are they?
9 months old.
9 months.
I haven't seen the colors, you can see.
Open your hand. There you go.
9 months, so small.
Because Maxima is small clam, it's not big clam. So when they grow slowly.
So like 1 year, how big?
1 year maybe 1 cm or 2 cm. It depends.
Okay, yeah.
PMDC stands for Palau Mariculture Demonstration Center, which is the country's mariculture facility. And one of the core animals that they cultured is the giant clam of various species. They actually culture them in very large numbers, and then once they actually have enough young baby clams, they would actually sell them to the local farmers who would actually grow them out further in the ocean nursery before it's being sold for either the food trade or the aquarium trade.
Do you clean the clams?
No, we don't clean the clam. How are you gonna clean 1,000 or 8,000
Yeah, I
in one
know.
day? Can you do it?
I only have 1,000 back home.
She is doing it right now. But that's also because our algae problem is quite...
This is the first stock of Maxima. These are good size.
How old do they have to be when you go and spawn them? For, to be like good stock? What size?
What size, I don't know.
14 centimeter.
Ooh. That will be roughly how old? 10 years?
What? I cannot tell age of the wild clam.
Yeah.
This kind of shell, when you harvest them, they have 3 kind of size. The smallest one is just like sand or smaller than the sand. You can just pinch them.
Yeah.
And you know how many you pinch?
Okay.
It's about 500 to 1,000.
What?
Well, my nickname for her is Giant Clam Mama.
Giant clam girl.
She's very, very much into giant clams.
I love giant clams.
Her obsession with one particular animal is it's very rare to find nowadays. It commands respect because really, to be able to focus most of your career on one animal, it's not something most people can do.
If Mei Lin was a marine animal, then definitely she'll be a giant clam. She's super vigilant, and giant clams are super vigilant as well. I mean, they are long-lived and they can grow up to huge sizes. Not that, never mind.
Oh, they have very
See the
strong...
shell? Very sharp. Huh?
Can I?
Oh, it's very flat.
Oh, so look at the spikes. I've not seen this.
It's porcelainous, right?
Yeah. In the facility, they have here some baby Hippopus porcelainus.
The common name is the China clam because of the porcelain-like texture that you can see on the shell. So it's the first time that I'm seeing a young one. Their populations are very rare, and to see them being able to successfully culture these individuals here, it's very exciting.
See the maxima?
I've never seen so many juveniles of different species in one place before, and so large scale. I mean, they can produce like thousands of juveniles, whereas back home I only do like 100 to a couple of thousand. The whole system is so well planned. There are tanks for each purpose, from the spawning tank to the larvae tank to the nursery tank. And the small juveniles are there until they are ready either to be put back out in the wild or for farmers to buy them.
We sell it for like 20 cents.
Oh, wow.
Very cheap.
I would think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
It depends on the size.
So how much would this be?
$4.
$4. Of course, I would hope that Singapore would be able to actually have a facility like this at some point. Not necessarily for giant clams, but I think it's really my hope that it will be a facility that can look after and breed many different animals so that we actually can build security, not just for food, not just for conservation, but collectively all together so that, you know, we can protect our marine resources better.
One layer, we used to be able to grow only maybe, 200 corals? Yeah. Now, with this system, we can grow 500 corals. Again, these are all corals that we are growing for outplanting to put back to the reef. I think you can see some of the corals that have grown here for a long time.
Well, in year 3 of the project, year 3 is when we disseminate the info that we have learned from the project so far.
Morning, everyone. Thank you very much for taking the time to come and participate in this.
We have a series of lectures planned,
Better culture certain species.
followed by some hands-on sessions. We want you guys to just observe the corals, some coral identification.
You can look under the microscope to see if you can find the features that we use to identify the corals.
And then we will show them how to do RFID tagging on our coral fragments.
If you put one tag down there, your customers will buy.
Yeah, to cut out.
So if you're going to tag on the base, then I don't think it will work.
But then, I mean, once you sold it already like to the customer,
Yeah,
right?
true.
This is mainly for the export and
Yes.
the chasing.
So basically, we will communicate to the stakeholders, people like NParks and the aquarium shops, what we have learned in the past 2 years of the mariculture project.
If you're thinking about conservation or sustainability, as much as you can have, you know, the science and the methods to do it, but at the end of the day, it's the people that have to implement it, they have to adopt it.
I think it's quite dangerous to market as a local coral because people will start to illegally.
Yeah, but then that's why the enforcement is the tagging and the
Yeah,
enforcement.
but the enforcement must be very strong, very on the ball
Yes.
before this thing.
And also will require your assistance lah from the industry. The feeling I get is that people are more open, more keen. And you see that both from the community side and also from the agency side, which I think is a great way forward lah. So people got buy these varieties. It is my favourite coral, but then all the boys tell me that nobody buy this in the aquarium.
Nobody buy one lah.
Varieties is the least thing that we order.
I told you.
Wow, it was a very long dive.
I think it's one of the longest dive I ever had.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. What clams did you see?
The two small ones that you spotted first,
Uh-huh.
they're so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like very big, right? There are a lot of the triangular crusaders on
The shadow part, right?
Yeah. I saw a super small one. It was like the size of my fingernail.
I saw a super big one. Look how so pretty. The bright
Yeah.
blue with all the berry.
The patterns,
Yeah, the
right?
patterns.
Yeah.
Prettier than mine.
For Singapore's Giant Clam Mariculture project, we are focused on culturing the smaller native species, the Triangular crocea. We are trying to develop a method on how to actually breed them better in the laboratory. The bigger goal that I have for the giant clams research work is that there is some kind of networking and collaboration that goes on in the region. Each country have their own populations and different species as well. But ultimately, I think it's a collective effort that we need to put in together to make sure that our own populations survive.
I feel like I need to pee now.
You can go now.
I might wait for you to go up first if you want to feel warm.
Usually when you are out like diving on a research trip, you don't necessarily have a bathroom, so you would just use the sea as your open bathroom. You know, being a female as well, sometimes it's very inconvenient, especially when we have our monthly period. Usually it's a lot of discomfort for many other females that I know working in this field.
I watched this YouTube video recently about men being subjected to period pain simulator, and then the men are like, "Oh my God, I'm going to die." so I mean, yes, there's certain biological things that can affect us working in the field, but just gotta suck it up and do it.
I think what's more important is to have that network or someone who's already in the field who you can speak to more comfortably about issues like this.
They may have a lot of advice on how to do things. For instance, I love the moon cup. I'm not going to say more, just go Google what the moon cup is.
Okay, so I'll be demoing it at the front table. So those behind cannot see, can you all come to the front and gather around this bench? So these are two species you'll be working with today. So one fragment each, you all choose. Whichever is available down there. We need very, very consistent photos. So try to take as much top down as possible. Because you take from the side, the angle a bit off, then your thing's all off already. We do this because we measure surface area for research. So we measure growth, actual growth of the coral. Just put just one drop of aquarium glue onto the tag itself. So you just put it near the side of the growing edge. Make sure that it's firmly in place.
So one part of the mariculture project looks at how we can get a sustainable supply of corals. But there's actually another part of the project which looks at what happens after you have this sustainable supply. How do you show that these corals were grown sustainably? How do we, verify its sources? How do you trace their parentage or which colony they came from? That's where coral tagging comes in and eventually coral tracing.
So all you do is just scan it, and then you have a number. So each tag is unique. So the idea is for the coral to overgrow it so that it cannot be removed and replaced.
Thank you.
Thanks for the clue.
We've now given everyone some homework. They've all been given these little goodie bags, which includes the RFID tags, the glue, forceps, instructions, and they're supposed to pick 10 corals or even more if they want to from their own aquarium to test out this RFID tagging method. They will then monitor these corals every single week for a total of 2 to 3 months. I definitely thought that there might be a little bit more pushback from the aquarium industry side. Oh yeah, no, this is too difficult for us. It's going to require too much manpower. But surprisingly, they're actually up for it. It's definitely an investment in their time. So in a way, they're also morphing to citizen scientists in helping us with this research. Okay, we're done. We can go and relax, drink beer already.
We're heading towards the giant clam farm now, in the open ocean.
When I first started the research work, most of my colleagues in the lab were interested in corals. Definitely the first half of the 15 years felt very alone and isolated. I felt like I was the only researcher studying giant clams dedicatedly. But over the years, as I actually extended my research and geographic scope, I realized I'm not alone. Quite an unexpected surprise for me is actually meeting Mr. Tom Watson, who is one of the pioneers in giant clam breeding when it first started in Palau back in the 1970s. To see him in person was a dream come true.
How long do you think it took from this line growth to this side?
Maybe 6 months, maybe.
Oh, these are about a year now?
Maybe a little bit older. It depends on how they did in the hatchery.
I remember the first time that I tried growing baby clams. It took me 7 to 8 months before I saw my first one.
And it was amazing to actually see that after such a long process, I was able to actually give life. I was able to actually help an animal reproduce. And since then, I think that has been my main motivation, the fact that every time if we try hard enough, we work hard enough, we will be able to get a result.
Thank you.
What is the purpose of having, operational farms like yours?
To do conservation work, you have to fund it. We need to grow clams and corals to sell to the aquarium market, to raise funds so we can do conservation work. We want to do conservation work at scale, and that means scaling up the number of cages, equipment, scuba gear, so we can do larger and expand. And you have to consider, what is the clam worth? Should I kill the last one and sell it to a Chinese restaurant? Or should I try to spawn it and produce more and plant them out? So right now, to me, the value is to produce the numbers, get them in the wild so they're self-sustaining, and then as you do that, commercial will develop side by side.
For the cowrie part of the project, we are pretty much there. Our work on the cowries has been more than what we expected. I mean, we didn't expect them to spawn and develop into, juveniles. So the fact that we have actually come this far, I think is really satisfying for me. So these are my oldest tiger cowrie juveniles at the moment. They are almost 4 months old. So right now I'm measuring their shell length as well as their weight on a regular basis, about once a month, so that I can track their growth and development.
If Teresa were a marine animal, I see her as a cowrie.
Yeah, I did think cowrie also.
Very motherly, very, very good at culturing and nurturing things.
She has this ability to quietly make herself shine by just doing her own thing, the way that cowrie has like the tissue goes over their mantle and makes it shiny.
They are doing really well. They're developing and growing really well, Because we're quite busy with the cowries the past year, so for the rest of the year, we are planning to focus more on the giant clams.
In Singapore, we used to have 5 different species of giant clams. Tridacna gigas, the largest species that we know, and the hippopus are actually locally extinct. The Tridacna maxima are so rare that we also have not encountered over the last 10 years actually. So right now we only have the Tridacna squamosa and Tridacna crocea that we can still find in reasonable numbers around the different coral reefs here in the south part of Singapore. The Tridacna crocea, also known as the boring giant clam, is not exactly as its name says. They're not actually boring per se, but it's to describe the behavior that they exhibit. They actually bore an entire hole in the coral reef substrate, which makes them one of the more unique species amongst the others. You usually find them completely embedded onto the reef bed.
So right now I'm cleaning the juvenile clams. I brush the towels as well as the shells of the clams. It's kind of a balance that we have to make, like between getting rid of the algae and sediment, but also trying not to dislodge the clams too much. Because once we dislodge them, they have to put in more energy to put down their bicep threads, and that can affect their growth as well. So in this tank, we have about 480 clams, and we have 4 batches at the moment. So for marine scientists in Singapore, whether they are principal investigators like Jani or Mei Lin, or research assistants like myself and Wei Long, we are actually all on contracts.
Contracts are usually at least a year, but it is the length of the project that determines how long you get employed for.
The role as a PI, having to actually stress over where research money comes from after or before the end of each project, it's real and it's actually very pressurizing, I feel. Sometimes it keeps me up at night just thinking about like what to do next.
The current project actually ends in about 6 months or so. I'm not sure what's in for me after that. It's just like one step at a time, one day at a time.
A lot of the fieldwork that we do for marine research is heavily dependent on the tides.
Wow.
Super exposed. The moon phases, like the full moon and the new moon, these are the two periods where the tide would go out and then expose the seashores. Too sandy, I think I scared the sediments come up.
The sand feels compacted here.
Yeah, which is good because when we walk, we don't sink.
Right now we're trying to find a suitable spot to hammer in the clam cage. Basically, we want to find a spot that's not too sandy, not too rocky, so that the cage will be secured.
Want to try here?
Yep. Here.
You're going in?
Yeah, you're going in. Yeah.
If Wei Long was an animal, I think probably like a mantis shrimp.
Wei Long would be more like the shrimp because he's always working and buzzing around, using his hands.
He's really good with his hands.
He's really hands-on, like a handyman. He's always building things.
He knows like what people need and he's always quick to help others as well. Yeah, so very perceptive, like mantis shrimp's eyes. Yeah.
Wait, first we stop first, then we see whether it moves. It's quite loose lah.
Yeah.
Going some more?
We are hoping that by reintroducing the broodstock clams back to the wild, there could be certain elements in the natural environment that could help them grow better. They might need something that we don't know in the waters. I can be the light source. In the line of work that we do, we work all sorts of hours because we follow nature. We rely a lot on nature's cues to tell us when we can actually do our field work or when do these animals and marine life thrive.
Nature can be unpredictable, and because of that we learn to adapt. So for me, I think I learned to not be surprised at things that happen out of my control.
As humans, we would like to think that we can control everything through engineering and we'll try and fix things and combat nature. But if nature wants to do something, it's gonna happen. So it's just best to have a plan B or plan C.
I think you have to stretch it open. The sticks, because it can't fit in now.
Okay. So it's a slide.
After having worked with nature for so many years, right, I've learned to know when to go with the flow and know when to go against it.
Still got a lot to hammer down. That one got stuck already. No, this one cannot go down anymore.
Okay, stop.
Stop. We don't stop, yeah.
Samuel, not yet.
Samuel, stop.
Okay, got it.
So now clams and rocks.
So the clam cage is actually not a cage, but it's actually just a platform where we're going to put our broodstock clams for about 2 months or so to improve our spawning attempts, basically to increase the eggs and sperm that we get from the clams.
Fit here.
Take out that one, then put Teresa's one.
This clam is a bit loose. Maybe need to reposition.
Right?
Yeah.
Which one is the most popular?
This one trade secret, cannot tell you. Why always ask me trade secret one?
This one? You sell how much?
This one polyp maybe $60.
This one with the 3 polyp.
3 polyp means 180.
You sell per polyp
Doctor, this place not free leh. Doctor, you want to sponsor me or not?
3 months ago, we set the aquarium shops and the collaborators with RFID tags to tag their own corals and put them in their own setups. And this is 3 months later, and we are checking up on whether the corals are still alive. This one is dying.
All still alive?
Oh, this one.
This one. Whether the RFID tags are still scannable. Okay, correct. And what can we do further from here?
Last one.
Yeah, I thought he said got some dead. Jackie said some dead, right? He grew back? Oh, he grew back. So none of them are dead.
So the cropra, they all grew over the RFID. Oh, not all.
This one haven't grown.
Got the tags for this one, cannot encrusted already, right?
Yeah, you see? It's really going over, correct?
Oh, okay.
It's going over.
Then this one is here.
Yeah, correct.
We're really here to try and do our best to see how scientific methods can be useful and can be applied to better the aquarium trade at large, specifically coral trade.
With these RFID tag corals, right, do you think there'll be a demand, like people know that they're tagged and they are traceable in some way?
In a reefing scene these days, even at our retail stores, people they will walk in, they will ask, oh, this is from where, and where's the source, where is it coming from? If let's say we tell them that it's from Indonesia, mariculture, they actually tend to pay a little bit more compared to those wild colonies. They also understand the effort and time needed to actually tag the corals and all. I would say the customers in Singapore, they are willing to pay more. Yeah, so long as it's not, crazily high price. Yeah, to ask them to pay for a small premium for it, I think it's okay. Yeah, they will accept.
I can see, right?
Can.
That's the tag, right?
Yeah.
So the coral hasn't actually grown over it.
Yeah.
During the workshop, there was a lot of discussion, but with this, very personalized one-on-one visit, we've been able to talk more openly. So it's been good. Hey, you got varieties,
Huh? Because of you, lor.
Hey, got variety.
Got colour one,
Got colour.
Red polyps, green body.
Nice, eh?
I found one, but it's just recently dead.
Okay, but it might have its buddies around here so we can search.
As a scientist and researcher of giant clams myself, I rely a lot on publications. But I feel that there's only so much I can learn from just papers. It's very structured, it's very scientific, but we don't talk about the human dimension and the elements, which I feel is very important.
There are success stories in conserving giant clams. One of the activities that we're doing online.
This week, I'm hosting a regional workshop to talk about issues informing the conservation and management of giant clams in Southeast Asia. One of the inspirations of bringing everybody here is that I see you face to face, you know how I look like, I know how you guys look like as well. Finally, we're going to divide ourselves into the different groups. That's where we would come in and talk to each other more about each of our own situation, but what we also think more broadly for the region. I think it's time to actually start really engaging with people, working with them, having face-to-face discussions and conversations about their local traditions.
Like you identify a strength for your country and then somebody else identifies the same. Then we know if there's 5 or 10, 15 that represent the same strength, then we know that that's a really important one that we can build on.
Illegal harvesting to continue a culture. So in this case, I think at least for ours, we would put it as a threat. It's the first regional workshop for Southeast Asia. Typically, most of the discussions about giant clams are actually a part of a major conference on coral reefs, usually a half-day session. But this is very different. This is actually 5 full days of talking about giant clams and hanging out with giant clam nerds. This is something that I've been working on for a while. I mean, although it's been only 2 years in terms of the writing, but I think it's also a combination of the work that I've done over the past decade or so. So we just launched my field guide. I'm overwhelmed by the support and the general warm feeling that I got. It is a long labor of love. I want to share with the wider audience and people about these amazing animals. Yes, these are the juveniles. So I may have very big dreams about expanding the conservation and management and even raising awareness about the threatened status of giant clams. But I also try to keep myself grounded, knowing that collaborations and being able to really do research together will take time. And we'll actually see the fruits of our successes slowly over time. I think what's really key for me is starting that conversation. We all come here with the same goal. This is just a first step.
Corals hate each other actually. They only like corals from their same species, or tolerate corals from their same species.
On the reef, it's a very dangerous environment. It's very cruel out there. Corals are in constant war with each other. They can send out their tentacles to sting other corals or grow faster than other corals to deprive them of resources.
Some corals actually extrude their guts out and digest what's around them to try and clear space and allow for their own sort of like growth.
Usually the corals that are considered more aggressive are the ones that have large polyps, long tentacles, because these have further reach. They can easily send them out to destroy their neighbours.
If you put two corals of different species together, you'll see one becoming whiter and whiter. The part of the coral that is nearer will start to die off. The other coral will slowly move in. The only people that corals like are their own clones. So if you put corals with the exact same genes together, they'll fuse back together if they touch.
Before we start, can I just check who has done spawning of clams before? The injection itself. One, two. The injection itself?
Watch this.
Watch this. Alright, cool. So this is the visor gate. What you want to do is to massage a bit so that the pedal tissue sort of like retracts a bit more so that you can actually see. Can you guys see the white color triangular organ here? Yeah, that is the visor gland. So the gonnads are behind that. So that's the part you're injecting. Just put no more than 1 to 2 mm into the gonnads. So today's workshop is a hands-on session on giant clam spawning. The clam may react, so you just want to hold it loosely. Unlike the cowries, the giant clams can actually be induced to spawn. Giant clams are hermaphrodites, so they have both male and female gonads. We inject a chemical called serotonin to stimulate the giant clam so that it will release sperm and then eggs. We actually induce several individuals at the same time.
Look at that, look at that. Yeah, great job.
Already.
Guys, we have sperm.
Hey. And then collect your falcon tube to collect your sperm.
So sperm usually is like very cloudy.
Not clear.
Not clear, yeah.
We mix the eggs from one mother along with sperm from 2 to 3 fathers. There's a microscope there. You can go and see, check is it eggs or not. After we fertilize the eggs and sperm, we wait for a couple of hours and by then they'll have hatched into embryos. In 2 days, they will become swimming villagers. Then there's a period of about 7 to 8 days, after which we put all the larvae into settlement tanks and then we just leave them alone for the next 3 weeks and then they'll settle into tiny juveniles. Hopefully.
The very, very top part is where we put the microchip on it.
The main purpose of this whole 3-month thing is to get the stakeholders participating in the RFID project.
They were all given homework to tag the corals, to monitor their own corals over time.
When you put the tag, that time it died, right? At the start.
Yeah.
Right? But then it stopped. Very interesting.
We see some have been very consistent, some, not consistent at all. I think it's important to know which coral and when the tag got off. You got remember, no?
You have to look back the photo.
Okay, you look back the photo, you tell me, now I know your number. Every day I call you. Today it's been like as a teacher sitting in front of the student, just getting them to do the homework, right? You got update the thing already, not? Tell you, at end of the week, I will call you. 50 times. It's not that they haven't done the homework, they just haven't handed up the homework. Maybe it's a bit too much for them to handle. We may look into streamlining the process.
From what I see, there is quite a fair bit of collaboration between academics and policymakers, and we are slowly trying to get more engagement with stakeholders from private entities. So I think it's an ongoing process. Relationships are being built, trust is being made across different bodies. I think so far so good.
Knowledge should flow as freely as the waters flow through our shared seas while we're pushing for science and research outcomes that are locally important. They can be globally impactful as well. Just putting it out there will make the aquarium trade more sustainable. Wow, good job.
Oh my god, so cute! It's so small!
Squamosa, right? Is it?
Yes!
Hey, I found my first clam.
Wow! You just stumbled into one at the landing point! Oh my goodness!
That's a lot.
We're here this morning to actually survey for giant clams. We're trying to monitor and mark them out for further study. I mean, it's actually very rare to be walking into a clam.
Stumble, right?
Yeah. It's like, start.
It's a start of a good day.
For many of us growing up in Singapore, we always think that, oh, it's very urban. When we go to our beach areas, we might think like, oh, there's nothing in our seas. But you know, when one actually takes time to explore, they will come to realize that, oh, it's actually vibrant with life. There's an octopus here. You know, when you actually just step onto the intertidal seashores and even our coral reefs, wherever you are seeing 360 is actually life. Oh, there's a stingray here. It's the blue-spotted fantail. It's one of the more common species of stingrays that we have here. As long as there's really shallow water pools, they would usually be there skirting around, hunting, or even hiding under the sand as well. So, giant clams, as its name suggests, that they are actually very big clams. But I think that's the irony of the survey, where even though they're so big, they're actually still relatively difficult to find on a vast reef like this. So we're still finding them. We have here a swimming crab, the red moth. The moment I approached it, you know, it went into a defense position by opening its two pincers. It's trying to make itself look bigger.
The cheesecake nudibranch is a nudibranch that looks like a cheesecake because of its colouring. I mean, a lot of common names of the animals tend to come from what they look like.
Some of the more rarely encountered animals, you know, would be the seahorse, as well as the upside-down jellyfish, the octopus as well. Especially because some of these animals, they are very elusive and they actually match the backgrounds really well. I feel like it's here, but it's just playing hide and seek. We are here today on Pulau Jong. We sometimes affectionately call it the Palau Island. What's really special about this particular island to me is that it's the place I saw my very first wild giant clam in Singapore. Ah! There's a clam here, sorry. Giant clams are like guardians that sit on the reef very quietly, but in fact actually collecting information and data about what's going on around them. By understanding what sort of microalgae lives inside them, we can tell like how the environment is doing, but at the same time, vice versa. One question I often get is, why giant clams? Why do I love them so much? When I started out as a student, I knew nothing about this animal. It was only through a research project that I had that opportunity to see how they look like and actually work with them. So it wasn't like an instantaneous like, oh, I love marine science, I love marine life, and I love giant clams. It was a very slow, brewing process. And, as time goes by, they really help mold and shape how I see marine science. I think what really struck me was the fact that even though I failed many times over the 7-8 months of my project, I actually saw a progress. I made some progress. I saw how these babies were going from one life stage to another. They're growing bigger, they're growing stronger, and they're surviving. And for me, I thought that was really the kind of encouragement that they were giving me to say, don't give up. We're getting there. And I think that's really what I have taken home and taken through with the rest of my career and life. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's something that I always resonate a lot to me in terms of that. That's why I thought that being able to speak up for the less charismatic is very important. Yeah.
Which is after we transfer lah.
Night. I think Monday night when
we transferred to the tank.
So we're stuck at the marine station. There's a zombie outbreak, and we've eaten everything in the marine station that we can eat. What else can we eat to survive?
Clams though.
Really? Y'all think very nice to eat ah?
Oh my god!
If you really got nothing,
Curry got a lot of flesh lah.
So mollusks is the food to go lah. Clam.
Guys, are y'all free on the 30th to the 2nd to come intertidal with me?
What's so weird?
Getting married or something.
The community in St. John's is not big. If we are lacking in manpower, we will ask around.
What time is your trip again?
3 a.m.
Oh my
And now
god.
it's
Well,
You need help ah?
The whole community is quite collaborative. If they are free, they usually will help.
Which dates were there again?
30th to 2nd.
Are you volunteering to come?
I can accept 30th. First, I'm okay.
Okay, you can put your list ready.
Okay. Thank you.
If Lionel was a marine animal, I think he would be a shark. Sharks in general have that image of being, threatening and fierce, a bit like killers. Lionel looks a bit stern at first glance, but actually deep down he's really a nice guy, pretty harmless, just like most sharks are.
You know sharks can smell blood very far away, right?
Yes.
If there's any gossip or anything, Lionel will definitely be attracted towards it. He likes this kind of thing.
Yeah.
well, the good news is we have a project extension of up to 6 months.
Oh, sorry, what are you supposed to?
I'm quite relieved actually. We do have some long-term experiments in mind. They'll take about 3 to 6 months, so the extension definitely gives us more than enough time.
What we all do with the extension right now?
Supposed to write the method paper for the tanks, right?
Oh, are we?
By we, I
Well,
mean
I think
royal
now
we.
By we, you mean?
By we, I mean the two of you.
I think contrary to the corals, cowries and clams were a little bit on the lagging.
It took a while to get there.
Oh, the cow is very exciting though. Oh my gosh, I'm very,
now,
yeah,
have
my
you
god,
seen that
no, I want to see.
so big.
What? You haven't seen?
So big already.
She showed me some photos, but I've not seen the actual thing. Like, oh my god,
Super
it's
big now.
cute.
And then the shell got pattern already.
Okay,
Like,
okay.
look like tiger.
Okay, so can eat lah during the dog.
That's what's important.
Yes, another mollustic. Yeah.
Okay, Kim Seng Kan.
Coral research in Singapore started way back in the 50s or 60s. But it really ramped up in the 80s and 90s when Professor Chow started his reef ecology lab. And since then, there's been a lot of research, many small projects going on, answering many different questions, especially on ecology and restoration.
Yep, got it.
If Jani was a marine animal, I would think that she's a orca, or commonly known as the killer whale.
Why would she call her an orca? Swims fast. She does swim fast. Sometimes we lose her underwater, but the next moment she appears again.
Orcas stay together as a family unit for a really, really long time, and that's how I feel Jani is. She's kind of like our matriarch, where she's, looking after all of us in the team.
Yeah, you want to come up first or you want to swim there?
So it's wet and rainy, not the best time. I'm worried about the vis, but work needs to go on. Today we're going to be outplanting about 180 corals.
Lionel, what happened?
Sorry. We went down, but the currents were a bit strong for us. We didn't come up. But it's a bit far and we are carrying a lot of precious cargo. So we figured it's easier if we let the boat bring us further, and then it's easier for us to access the site.
issue with restoration is always how to scale it up. You end up doing very small pockets of areas, but to have it effective, you also want to make sure that you're able to execute it or implement it in scales that are also ecologically meaningful. So it starts with trying to make sure that we have enough source of corals. The Advancing Mariculture project, supported by the Singapore Millennium Foundation, really helped us achieve that. We were able to upscale coral culture to the thousands. We're now moving forward and actually using those corals for conservation as part of another pilot reef restoration project funded by the WWF Singapore. We're trying to restore reef areas in the deeper waters where live coral cover has really declined in the last few decades. Okay.
Oh, you put that later, can I? Just put here, just put here.
Ooh, it's a clam. Oh, it's one of our older clams because I think it's the one that y'all found in the very first trip. The one that I wasn't there. Because you're using this stick.
Yeah, either way.
Today we are at Tumbu Raya and we are here to collect our equipment that we have deployed. Cutting the cork area is quite a contraption. So we have equipment that measures light, temperature, the general flow of the area, and also the amount of sediments this area experiences. Okay, then next. I brought gloves because I had a cut on my finger. But seems okay, leh.
Sometimes I just look at my hand and like, where did this cut come from?
I know, right?
I'm taking off the clock.
Okay. To be honest, my first love was freshwater. I'm an imposter. My first introduction was like at home because my parents were very against me using handheld games or like arcades or like the TV. So my grandmother would like to entertain us with an aquarium. Eventually, I started developing a love for the aquatic realm. But I mean, I didn't want to be so narrow on my freshwater love, so I was also able to be, you can say, converted to marine science. My first deep dive into marine science was as an intern for Dr. Mei Lin. And of course, her specialty is giant clams, and as such, I continue on in her footsteps.
Oh my goodness, I missed it. How can it be? We are trying to sample the tissue of the giant clam so that we can actually do molecular genetic works with the tissue itself. Hello. I'll try not to cut too much, okay? I promise. Please tell me, please tell me.
Very small.
Oh, we have! Oh, thank you.
Marine conservation is not just a short-term project or short-term goal, but rather it's something that really lasts through everybody's lifetime.
Okay, this is probably the biggest crochet piece that we'll ever get.
From my professor until our turn right now.
Very big.
And I'm also thinking, who's next? And who's gonna be taking that helm, you know, in the years to come?
And no, they're coming already.
They're coming already.
As of recently, definitely there's an increase of awareness towards the environment and interest in marine science as well. Yeah.
Okay, so...
Are we finding the clam?
Oh, here.
Working with her the past few years really taught me the importance of science communication.
Looks good, like the part that we trim out for the sample is already recovered as well.
If the scientists are only out here doing their own things and nobody knows what we are doing and nobody hears about what we're doing and nobody understands the impact of what we're doing, then nobody can support us. And in the science field, we need that support from the public. I'm one that is quite antisocial or like quite shy or introverted, so I don't really like talk to people about what I do. But after seeing what Mei Lin does, I really see the value in it.
Oh gosh. How did the octopus make the mermaid laugh?
Wait. By tickling it.
Close. It has tentacles.
Oh
Tentacles.
my god.
What did one tadpole say to the other tadpole? Show me your muscles. I know, but I remember there was one more. Wait, I'm trying to find. My hope for marine conservation in Singapore would be that the next generation would be able to take up and step up stronger.
I think the whole issue of climate change is, of course, very big. How I view it is like making a wood carving. You have to chip it multiple times. So as small as this work is, I believe that it could help contribute. In some way or another, it could help at least take it a bit further, take it a bit forward, I mean, yeah.
We are going back. It's huge. It's huge. It's very big. That's why I wanted to go see.
I'm sorry.
I'm ready to swim.
I was like, isn't there a giant clam underwater?
Yep. 10.
Samuel, it's like humongous. You see? It's insane.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's very big, right?
So you're grabbing the ruler.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah. You always ask the obvious question. She is heavy. Oh my god. Yeah, you want to take a photo, then you can see the proper scale. No, not that kind of scale. Actual scientific scale.